to call upon the special guest of honor, Her Excellency, the First Lady of Niger State, Dr. Amina Bello, to motivate Nigerians in defense of the neonatal lives. And the special guest of honor, please. Her Excellency, First Lady of Niger State, Dr. Amina Bello.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Can you all hear me?
We can hear you.
Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me very great pleasure to be here for the launch of the book, Born to Live, Not to Die, the story of the experience of one man over the years on his quest to save neonatals in Nigeria. Professor Amadi and I met a few years back, and I always say that our meeting was providence, because I think both myself and Professor Amadi had no expectations or any inkling that we were going to meet each other and something wonderful was going to come out of that meeting. I've heard everybody's comments today, and my own story is a little bit different, but also the same at the same time. We happened to meet at the time my husband had won the election as the governor of Niger State, and we had inherited a new mother and child hospital in the state capital, which had been launched just a day before the inauguration of my husband as the governor. It was a new hospital, and when I went to inspect it, on the surface, it looked like a wonderful opportunity. But then when you come back and look at it again, you see that as a lot of projects in Nigeria, the surface was good, but when you look into it, there were a lot of gaps. But the wonderful thing I found there was that we had about 18 brand new incubators. Top of the range, fantastic incubators that had been installed in the neonatal section of the hospital. But that was the only thing that section had, nothing else, just incubators. It didn't even have piping for oxygen, nothing. And so it occurred to me that if this neonatal center was opened the way it was going to be a complete waste of precious equipment that most hospitals did not have. And so I spearheaded the idea that we shouldn't open that hospital until we had gotten things in place for a proper opening. Now, this was even before I met Professor Amadi, and I had absolutely no idea how we were going to do that. Then come our meeting with Professor Amadi in a conference for cancer, for that matter, nothing to do with neonates. I had gone for a conference on First Ladies against breast and cervical cancer, and Professor Amadi happened to be a guest at that conference. Nonetheless, we got introduced, we started talking, and when I met Prof, I thought he was a pediatrician because of the way he was talking. And I had no idea he was an engineer. When we were introduced, nobody told me he was an engineer, so I thought Prof was a pediatrician. But the 5-10 minutes we spent talking, I recognized a passion in Prof that I hadn't seen before in other people. And I said, you know what, Prof, what you need to do is come down to Niger. Come to Mina, have a look at our hospital, and then we can talk. And the rest is history. Professor Amadi and sacrificed time, effort, resources to help us set up, in my view, one of the best centers for neonates in Nigeria. What we did was to set up a center that had what the barest minimum of a standard neonatal unit should have. Now, Niger is a small state, even though we have the largest landmass. And we have shortage of health personnel. In fact, as I'm speaking to you right now, we just have 2 consultant pediatricians within the state capital itself. And 2 of them are working hard to run that our neonatal unit. One of the things that I want to stress here is we're talking about policies, talking to legislators, setting up policies, new laws. Now, Nigeria is endowed with so many brilliant minds, and we can see from Professor Amadi as an example. We are in no shortage of policies that are fantastic. I don't think we need new policies or new laws because they are already there. And the most you can do to those policies is just tweak it up a little bit, maybe to modernize it. But in most cases, they are sound and solidly made. The problem is with implementation. So what needs to be done is to advocate for those policies to be implemented in the manner in which they were written, not for new ones. Of course, in some other areas, you might need new ones, but in most cases, you already have those laws and those policies. And so we just followed simple, basic science and set up that neonatal unit. This is now 2 years since that center has been set up. And I'm proud to say that it has been running the exact same way it was started. It has been maintained. And that is simply because there is political will in the state. And there's a passion in the workers within that unit. And that passion was instilled because of the training they had when it was set up. Because the staff were taken for training in the Abuja, in the Gwagwalada Teaching Hospital. They spent 2 months training before they came, and they said, so they had very good basic training in which to set up that center. So it has been sustained. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of challenges, not least of all funding. But if you have whatever funding you have and it is channeled in the proper way, things will work. So the problem we have in Nigeria is not just about government. In fact, I will tell you that most of it has to do with the people who work in the hospitals and in the centers. Because I would use Niger State as an example. The governor, His Excellency Amina Bello, from the first time he came in as governor, pledged to put healthcare education as part of his main focuses for his tenure. And so every single thing that was presented to him to improve the healthcare of Niger State was approved by him. And that is a testament by what you see, what we have in the neonatal unit. Every single thing that was created there was by fundings directly from the state government and not from any donors or anybody. With the help of Prof and the dedication of the staff in the Ministry of Health and the dedication of the staff in the SCBU, you were able to set up what is currently a very wonderful neonatal unit. I want to iterate something that one of the presenters said. I think that was Dr. Oga, when he was talking about the Firefly. I want to testify to that since we got the Firefly, which Professor Amadi brought for us, we also have not had a single EBT done in that facility. The amount of babies that have been saved, initially, the mortality rate of babies in the Mina General Hospital was so high, but that has now been reduced by over 75% in the last 2 years, and we have data to show that. No, it is fantastic. But the most amazing thing for me is that Professor Amadi did this without Niger State government paying him a single kobo. He did it from passion and the will and the zeal to save babies. The only thing we did was provide his logistics, his accommodation, his transportation, feeding, and then for the feeding of his staff. That was it. We did not pay him a single kobo. And he came in, and I met Prof at the time when he had given up on Nigeria and had said he didn't want to do anything. That was the last thing. But he always tells me that I'm the one that made him stay back. When Prof gets frustrated, he calls me and says, I'm giving up. Niger State people are frustrating me. I'm going to give up. I leave Prof to to calm down for a month or so. Then I call him back. I say, oh yeah, Prof, are you ready to come back? And he always comes back. Because his passion and the love for the neonates will not allow him to give up, especially when he's sick. Because I always tell him, how do you invest millions of naira and then you say you're going to fold your hands and see it go down the drain? It's not possible. We can't continue on our own. You have to be there to help us. When you enter the SCBU in the Mina maternity unit, it's called Jume Babangida Neonatal Hospital. When you enter that unit, it's like you are in a unit in the UK. Then you come out and you know you're in Nigeria. But we are very proud of what we have. We wouldn't have done it except for the grace of God and the selflessness and passion of Professor Amadi. I am very glad that he has written this book. It is a very, when I read it, as I was reading it, I could see Prof talking in the way he has written that book. It is a very brutal book, I think, if I can, brutally honest book. It portrays because when I read it, you see, it portrays the frustration that Professor Amadi has gone through, and not only him, the frustration of the health workers that are working within those neonatal units, the pain of losing those babies. But for me, I think if one thing we can take away from this is that from hearing what everybody has said, Prof should know that this isn't the end for him. In fact, it's another beginning. It is not the end, as Prof would like to say. This is his retiring from the neonatal business in Nigeria. He's capping it up with a book. For me, I think it is a beginning of another phase. The book creates awareness of the challenges that we are facing, real challenges that affects everybody. When you read the book, you know it is from the nurses, the doctors, the engineers, the civil servants, whoever. You know that it is a collective problem. It's a systemic problem, and not just the problem of one person or the government or anything like that. There needs to be a concerted effort on the part of everybody to improve the lives of neonates. My prayer is that this book spurs people on to do their own bit in their own little ways, in their little corners, to see how they can help to improve the life of these neonates. Based on what we have seen, we do not need fantastic things to make our babies survive. At the time Prof set up our unit, we actually managed to buy 2 CPAP machines for our babies at exorbitant prices. But we now have about 7, I think, of the Hippolyta. We have about 7 of them that the Hippolyta PAP machine, which he created, that is a fraction of the cost of the CPAP machines that we had to buy in the beginning. And our nurses and doctors will tell you they use the Hippolyta machine more than they would use the CPAP, because it is easy to use. It gives the amount of oxygen and the right temperature and the right concentration that our babies need, and our babies survive on those machines. We need to look inwards to our own people to provide the solutions that are peculiar for our own environment, that will help the general health, not just neonates, but the entire gamut of medical equipment that we require in Nigeria. So it gives me great pleasure to be here. I want to congratulate Professor Amadi for the work that he has done. We in Niger State are very grateful. We don't intend to let him go. Well, now he is now an official consultant for us, actually. Now that I think we have signed an MOU with him. If he tries to get out of it, I will always blackmail him to come back to it. So for now, we haven't let him go, and we're not going to let him go. So thank you very much, Prof. We commend you, we congratulate you on your book, and we hope that it gives the kind of impact that we pray it does to help save the lives of babies in Nigeria, in Africa, and in the world at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Her Excellency, and we truly appreciate those the comments that you made in the speech, and for the interest of the units, Nigeria, and the work that this professor has done so excellently well in their support.